Welcome to another episode in the series hosted by Helping Crisis 246, where we focus on teaching what you can do in a mental or emotional crisis and where you can find help. But the series is not limited to speaking about crises events. We actually teach coping mechanisms that anyone can use during some of life's most difficult and stressful moments to essentially help to keep you off the edge. Because, as I said in the last episode, mental health is not limited to mental illness. That is a huge misunderstanding. But any Google search of the definition for mental health shows that it includes your mental, psychological, social, and emotional well being, how you cope with stress, and how you make decisions. So that the podcast aims to help you with that part, coping mechanisms in stressful situations, and your decision making process so that you'll have overall better mental health. I'm Michelle Russell. I'm an attorney, but more importantly, a mental health advocate. And if you want to know why mental health is so important to me, you can watch episode 1. And while you're there, feel free to check out any of the other episodes. Now, today, I am starting on a part of the series I call My Healing Journey, where we're going to be speaking to various people who have agreed to share with us their healing journey, their journey to self love, self discovery, self actualization, and becoming more whole and more comfortable in themselves. And to start that off, I have with me today Gaynelder Grazette. She is a true creative. If you see the things she draws and puts together, you'll know why I say that. And something she doesn't speak of enough is her performing arts, but I'm going to leave that alone. But she is a fashion designer and a stylist. In fact, she is more popular known as the Kudos Kid on Instagram. And you'll see her at all kinds of fashion shows and award ceremony because last year she won the Gain On. I can't speak the Beijing. Gain On Awards.
Yes.
For
Fashion Designer of the Year.
Fashion Designer of the Year. Gaynelle, welcome. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. Appreciate that you invited me.
No, what you have to know about her, is that she doesn't just design clothes, so she's not just going to take up a piece of material and put things together. Nor is it limited to men, women, and children. Look, when she's ready to design, she goes in full creative mode, which I believe is when you find your center and you find your true self, and the creativity tends to flow. So she's made outfits out of puppies, out of tape measure, out of foil, and more recently, even out of masks. And I mean the mask you use for COVID. So we're going to be delving into what makes her her, where she gets the creative juices from, and more importantly, her healing journey. So earlier this year, when she celebrated her birthday, she put up a post on Instagram, and when I read it, man, this thing spoke to my soul, not just my heart. It spoke to my soul, and tears came to my eyes because she spoke of the journey to her inner child. She spoke about shadow work and how she has been able to come more into herself. Gaynelle, can I ask you to share that post?
Yes, please. I don't think I have the words to express how grateful I am today. I just feel like a brand new person. I don't know how much of you have been here from the beginning of my self love journey, but I'm so grateful that I get to share me with you. When I did content on marrying myself right on IG, I know most people just thought it was fashion and creativity, but that was very real for me. I was unhappy with myself, certain decisions I made, and also where my career was headed. So I made a personal decision to start. Start what though? I wasn't sure, and I definitely was taken by surprise the way I got to this place. Instead of looking ahead, I had to go backwards. I'm always I've always dealt with my emotions and whatever else was bothering me by doing something I call shelving, where I would put my worries on a shelf and move on. I saw it as conquering chaos, but when my suitcase was too full, you must unpack it. I started to take down the things I didn't need in my head to create space for my imagination. I went back to my childhood and started doing the things that fueled me: dancing, painting, writing, etc. Nobody talks about the shadow work self love really takes. Sure, taking yourself on dates and pampering is part of it, but the real work comes from holding yourself accountable, addressing insecurities and trauma, creating boundaries. I had to have the most serious conversations I'd ever have with myself. Then what was revealed to me was so beautiful because I realized who I was. I've always been creative, but when I look back at my childhood pics, I truly saw how authentic and raw I've always been. I was sassy, witty, free spirited, and elite. I've always had the brightest of smiles and a warm heart. My mother always used to say, "You are such a contented child." I find joy in the smallest of things because everything is a gift. So I returned to that person and found the greatest gift, peace. Sure, I worked doggone hard, but what you see here is a result of falling in love with myself again and healing. The most beautiful things can only come from love.
Y'all see, I have a little tear in my eye again. You won't believe I've heard this before. There's so much in that I want to unpack. And I want to start where you said you needed to clear space in your head to unlock your imagination. Are you willing to share some of what you had to clear?
Yes, when I was when I had just turned 31, I realized that I was crying more and laughing less and stuff like that. And I didn't know what was wrong. Like I was just stuck in a mental space. Decisions that I made because we as a people always have like limitations on us because of what other people tell us and stuff like that. So I felt like it was feeling that life you're getting older, you feel like life going long and left you. You're not married, you don't feel like you're at the peak of your career, certain things, and I had to look within, but I didn't understand it yet at that point in time. That was just before the pandemic. That was the January pandemic, like come to a head in March. It was almost like God was preparing me for something. And through 2020, I was just stuck in a serious mental where I remember one day I was sitting down and I just was like, because I'm naturally a really bad overthinker. Like it's got so much things going on in my head. And it was like, God, what to do right here? And I just heard his voice say again, I'll just shine. Right? I just heard his voice say again, I'll just shine. And it was like, what do you mean by shine? And then I hear it say shine again. And the next day, my mother came into the room. I was there like, I saying, what do you mean by shine? What do you mean by shine? And my mother walked into the room with this storybook and said, you want this? Cause my mommy is a hoarder, kind of like a hoarder. She do not throw away anything. So my mother walked in the room with this storybook. And when it opened, it said, awarded to Gaynelder Grazette, year 1997 to 98 for creativity. And in that moment, everything just came to a head. Like, you gotta get back to the person you was. I always used to dance, always enjoy poetry, always writing different things. And I found that I shelved that person because you're trying to just get through in life for what people are telling you. They don't ever tell you just do everything outside, but just be yourself. And that's exactly what I had to do. I just had to take away all the limitations. I started to address my insecurities and things like I always was real small. I was 99 pounds forever.
I know the life. I know the life.
So it's like certain things, even things like that. When I smile, I have gummy. I smile. Oh my gums! So it's one. And people like, oh, them start to taste. I start to address like, what you gonna do about this? Like you must love you for you, and whoever don't accept that, they aren't for you. And that's what I had to do. And it was the small things first, and then it was the greater things where it's like my purpose. And when I start to self love, because that was where I had to tackle the things in my head. By doing that, I didn't even understand. The other day, Akila Jones said something. She said she didn't understand how much her track needed her art. I don't know if you know that she's do hacks and stuff like that. And it spoke to me so much because just know with my business propelling, it was because I had to go back to that person, fun loving, doing things that don't make sense. Like, yeah, they went botanical gardens and they hugged a tree. And I remember like trying to go like behind the tree so that people won't see me. And then I was like, just do what you're doing. You got fuel yourself. And that's basically how I got to this space. I really had to, be serious and have those serious conversations with myself and believe that whatever in my head is real and not just that it's just this crazy because everybody is coming crazy.
So let's go back to why. Can you look back into your 20s? Because you said this awakening started around 31. Can you look back into your 20s and think of factors or things that might have made you shelf yourself?
I would say yes. Well, When I lost dance,
Well,
I
how did you lose dance? What does that even mean?
well, let me explain.
Sure.
When I was younger, coming up and stuff like that, I always used to be dancing. Everything to do with dance was me. But what happened is people don't understand creatives. I always say, we need something to feed the mind, something to feed the soul, right? Dancing was my soul food. And I was so progressive in school and everything. But then with my family, we had to move, right? And things became hard. They moved from St. Michael to Christchurch. And it was so sudden. Um, that it was earlier mornings because I used to walk school from where I lived before, so now you gotta catch bus and different things. So it was earlier mornings, later nights, and it's like they didn't make time. Well, my family, we didn't make time for me to still dance because obviously you gotta deal with immediate things that are happening around you. And when I stopped going dancing less and less, my teacher came to my mom and she was asking what's going on with me. And I remember the conversation so clear. My mother was telling her like things that are happening at home and that we had to move and stuff like that. But nobody realized that I was falling back because I wasn't dancing. Because that's for me was that was what had the structure. Like I would have to do everything surrounding dancing. I would have to know that when you come home from school, you gotta do your homework first because you got classes today, you got classes Saturday. It was good for my mind and stretching my imagination because and to remember stuff because you gotta remember routines. You gotta make it routines. Um, if I feel in a certain way, obviously dance was my fuel to release those kind of things. So when I lost dance, I lost myself. I lost myself. And funny enough, I didn't even realize it till recently when I really had to go back and start thinking and seeing where I went wrong. And it was like, I can't believe that. Because people look at it and say that's fickle. Like she lost that and she lost herself, but it was real. Like I realized that because I realized I used to struggle so much with like time management, procrastination. I still do, but I come a long way because I had to go back to that person. Dancing is my fuel, and that's what happened in my 20s. I had nothing to keep me structured or anything like that.
So what did if there's no structure, what did it then look like besides procrastination?
Um, I feel like I wasn't sure in the direction I was going with my business, especially too because in Barbados I'm being a fashion designer. Beards are trained people, as in when something come up, everybody just start rearing it and stuff like that. So when I left Polytechnic, I started my business. I went back to BCC in 2011 with my business, running my business, and still going to school full time. And even when I left school, I feel like even though I was making clothing, because at that time I was only doing seamstress work, so people coming to me and they bringing stuff, and I just repeating it. I knew the creativity was there, but hey, you gotta do what you gotta do to make the money, right?
Right.
So I feel like I was stuck in a space for so long, and besides the besides the procrastination, I used to struggle a lot with my business, as in like remembering dates, remembering things. Um, some days I sit down and I know something could take me 3 hours, and I there from sun up to sundown, struggling to finish this thing because it was not me.
Right.
I was just doing what I had to do to get by, but it was not me. So looking back now and seeing how far I've come and the way which I even do think you have to find a way to move around these things, and looking back and to see that it was just as simple as getting up, just dance, for yourself. Some days I legit be on my machine station and I would just get up and that's when people close and stay like that.
So tell me, so when you stopped, what age were you when you stopped going to these dance classes?
I was it happened because one of the reasons it happened too was because I was about to say 11 plus, and everybody was telling me, "Oh, she need to put down that say for a little while because she ready to
Right.
sit the exam."
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't support or appreciate creatives enough, especially in that time. Now, it's a little different with social media and saying children can get it and say, I want to be a YouTuber, I want to be a motivational speaker, and it's accepted. But in that time, it was always Dr. Lawyer, bike manager, So everybody keep telling my mother that, she got to stop that, so she got to be studying or whatever. So that is really how it came about. And I would say I was roughly about 11, 12.
I'm sorry. I feel like I need a minute. The reason I'm asking these questions is Who thought? So for me, dancing is life. I can't not dance.
Exactly.
I will be in the supermarket shopping and a song playing and a dancing.
And a dance.
I not even noticing, but I dancing. Like, and any of my friends will tell you, if I go to a fit or go out, it no matter once the music I play, I'm dancing.
Right.
And I danced right into my 20s. Growing up, I came from a very religious home, and I was after a lot of back and forth, I was able to join the dance ministry at church and that kind of thing. But my father hated it, so he fought it as much as he could. That's the truth. So when I finally had moved here and he started to work, I was like, good. There's no impediment. So I was dancing with Dance Strides, Sharon Trotman, Love Her to Death. And I did ballet, jazz, modern, Afro-Caribbean with Geraldine, and my favorite salsa.
Right.
And I did that in my 20s, a long part in my 20s. And then it became more difficult because I hated ballet. I won't lie. I was just trying to do the stretches. I ain't for me.
Tempo enough for me.
It just ain't for me. I feel this whole turn out the hip party. Okay, I was definitely at the back of the class. Like no. And but things got more and more difficult, and I didn't really know why. It took a while, and then I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. And I tried to continue. I tried to continue for a while, and I would almost always end up with a cane or in a wheelchair because my body couldn't handle it anymore. And it was such a hard experience for me because I felt like I lost myself. And I probably spent a good couple of years mourning the loss of that self. Even when I had to move away from the classes, I could still do salsa because salsa is less about the stretch up in your leg here and there and more about just getting lost in the music and the moves. And then with time, even salsa became difficult, and I felt like life was taking away the thing that made me light up. And my God, look at the two of us. This is scenarios. And you have piece of tissue over this one. Oh, you got yours. So good.
Also, be crying.
I know. And so it was, but what I never stopped doing was dancing at home. So the reason I'm asking, when did you stop? I'm trying to figure out, when did you learn that you could dance at home and in the supermarket? And where?
This is the funny thing. I didn't even look at it as me still, because as you say, I went through the same morning period, but obviously at that time I couldn't process my thoughts because I was 11, was 10, 11, and I couldn't process it. But the thing is about God, He would still sprinkle dance in my life. I was at Louis Lynch, and everybody know Gaynelle for the concert. I met her out dance school. It was me, another girl at Murray, same day as me, and she's dancing in African and Shadi. And 3 other girls in my class, and I was obviously for that time I was already into outfits, and I just would be like, this will be the way I rename we was near the hype of myself. And I would dance at concerts, right? And that's one thing I appreciate about my mom. Like, they understand though that even though I didn't come from like, no, we was like, not rich, not middle class, we was like poor. And that's one thing I appreciate my mom, because even though I didn't have like brand new things and a lot of these things the other kids have, what my parents understood was that I was a creative child. So if I say, mommy, I in a dance group and we need to get things to wear, I ain't got money for that. If I say I want to be in the Easter bonnet parade, I ain't got money for that. Because I was always very creative and outgoing. I was one of the children that competition didn't scare me. I was always bold, like, I go up on top of the podium and do whatever recital they want me to do. I was always like that. So, but the thing is, even before I knew dancing was my thing, my father used to hold dances, like open dances. And I got pictures of me being the only child, 2 years old, in the middle dancing with all these adults around me.
Nice.
Right? So that was always my fuel without me even realizing it. And as I say, he was sprinkling my life. So when I was at Louis Lynch, and then I went BCC, and they'll give us an option to do as a let's call it when you could do other courses.
Yes.
Right. And I do Latin dance.
Nice.
And I get A. And then when I was at Polytechnic, I entered the pageant.
Nice.
And I do that as my, so it's like it still was in my life, but not to the extent I would have liked it, but it was still was there. So I was always that child that everybody gonna invite me to the birthday party. I had no problems because then when I went again, I'll come and not hiding in the
Mash up the
corner
place.
and hiding behind each other. You know, you got girls that like a guy in the corner and do a little thing. I come into that.
Yeah, man, we're up on the dance floor.
Correct.
You know the middle.
Correct.
No
So
problem.
yeah, that was always. I didn't even know it was my fuel till now, obviously because I love that, but it was always there.
And so 31 happens. You're crying all the time and
Mhm.
you hear shine.
Mhm. Mhm.
How did you marry dance and shining?
As I say, when I open the button, it tell me creativity. But the thing is about it, it spoke to me in a way you have to bring creativity not only through your work, you have to show who you are. And I always had showmanship. So that's why whenever I'm making my pieces, I can try to dance and there. You know? I can write something. That's why I like long captions. I love penmanship. You know, so I had to show who I was not just from the fashion aspect, but he said shine, which is show who you are completely. You know? That even I ain't put funny videos recently, but I love skinny and I love doing crazy stuff. So even comedic videos, that kind of thing, it was just showing on the whole. But I knew that the dance was the fuel behind everything.
Okay, so tell me, you said you started to look inside. How did you know to even look inside? Because you know most people don't actually engage in that. Were you reading books? Were you watching blogs? How did you know?
I knew because after the conversation and God told me to shine, I remember one day I was overthinking. And I got this thing where my studio is my safe place. I sit in my farming machine every day, even if I am not stitching. I eat there, I read there, everything. And I got this thing where it's laying on the ground or on top of my studio table. I just always gotta be close to the fabric or something like that.
That's fine.
And I was talking to God in my head at first, and nothing was coming. And I felt like in that moment, He was like, "No, you gotta acknowledge my presence." And I opened my mouth and started to speak out loud, that, like if I was speaking to somebody, right? If my mother would walk in the center, she would think it was crazy. I mean, I was having a conversation with this person who some people would say don't exist, you know? And that was where I start to understand that I had to look inside because, as the may say, yes, we serve a God, but the God is also in you,
Exactly.
you know? So I realized I didn't need validation. I didn't need to ask anybody anything because that's one of the things that we do. We want, somebody that you might trust or feel like they have good opinions. Sometimes you go and ask and stuff, and what they tell you, you project on yourself, you know? So I had to get to that point where it's you and God. It's you and God. And that's how we know to look with Him because the conversations then that I start to have out loud, where I start to acknowledge, and then I talk about seeing and hearing recently, where is like I had to start to see beyond where my sight was and hear beyond what I could hear.
What does that look like?
That looks like some days I open Instagram and the affirmation comes to me, and when I read it, I get goosebumps because I could tell that it was speaking to me. You know, that looks like I might not be paying attention and I hear something and I know directly it was speaking to me. You know, I had to start
And the hugging of the tree.
hugging of tree.
The heightened sensory input where you can receive from the universe
Exactly
through the senses.
I start to realize that because people that believe in astrology and different things, people say that we're crazy. But for me, if I can believe in a God that I cannot see, why can't I believe that the way the earth and the moon and the placements actually has an effect on our life?
Makes sense.
I remember growing up hearing my mother say that women get babies and get impregnated with the moon. And I've seen it. Like my mother's one, people the person would come and she'd be like, "That's a boy you're saying." So I know I was like, even now with these old things, I remember they would say, "For moon is tell you will get that baby," and the child will come. I seen these things, like crazy. So it's like I started to have to believe in beyond what I thought was what I had to believe. Basically, open minded to everything. So sometimes when I started to produce videos, people and I realized it was something different because people always would tell me, Gaynelle, you even my birthday post when I do the whole pageant thing and all of that. So much people message me and say, "Girl, you got me here crying." I wanted to come from a space where I project what I was feeling inside, not just showcase my work, but I wanted to inspire and touch people from whatever God was showing. Some days I'd be like, "Why are you showing me these things?" you know. But I just had to believe that whatever up there is real.
So how do you keep track of all these thoughts? Do you journal? Do you write them down? Do you record voice notes?
I start to try to write because that's one of the reasons too. I think that my mind was full. I was one of them people that believe I could keep everything in my head, and that's not real.
It isn't.
It's not real. You definitely have to remove some of the baggage from your brain. So yes, I do write, and I think that that's one of the reasons why I start about writing like poems and different things like that. I jot down things I want to do and stuff like that. Um, some days I will record, like take my phone and make a little video or whatever. But you have to, in order to. But so funny enough, you will have something in the back of my head sitting down like for months, on top of months, and all the time, like every time I see the vision, it like perfecting or add a little another piece here or whatever. That's how my visions just come to me. So I don't know if the God saying in kind of just like storing certain things, but I would mull over things for months before I even actually put it on Instagram or anything like that.
So you start this healing journey and you start to shine and evolve and go more into your creative self. Was everyone on board for this?